Welcome, dear students, to Grade 8 Political Science, Chapter number 17 Fundamental Rights, Fundamental Duties, and Directive Principles of State Policy. This is the part 1 of the chapter. With love in our heart and blessings of the Almighty, let's begin today's session with Gayatri Mantra. Join your hands and close your eyes. ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्. It means we meditate on that most adored Supreme Lord, the Creator, whose divine light illumines all physical, mental, and spiritual being. May this divine light illumine our intellect as well. Okay, now let us start with some exercise. Exercise are the best to keep ourselves active and healthy and also to feel energetic. Let's do some walking in the house. You can do it for 5 minutes. Okay, now after some exercise, sit down and we'll do some breathing exercise. Breathing exercise not only keeps our lungs healthy but also helps us to remain alert. Look at the flower figure. As it zooms in, you breathe in. As it zooms out, you breathe out. Okay? So let's start. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Do this for nearly 5-10 counts. Good. It was very hot, so I went to a soda shop and was enjoying my soda. As I was sipping my soda, I overheard the shopkeeper speaking to his family. He was talking about how he is being considered as an outsider and many people think twice before speaking to him. And it was becoming difficult for him to sustain himself in this big city. Walking back home, the shopkeeper was in my mind. I kept on thinking, why was he so unhappy? Was he not aware of his fundamental rights? After a long period of slavery and exploitation at the hands of the Britishers, people aspired for a life where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where the education is free for all, where every citizen has the freedom of religion and faith, where sole aim of the government is the welfare of the people and especially the downtrodden. Next day, again, I went to the same soda shop and explained him the fundamental rights of each citizen of India according to the Constitution. I explained to him that we, the citizen of India, have 6 fundamental rights: right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, culture and education right, right to constitution remedies, and right to freedom of religion. These are the 6 fundamental rights that each and every citizen of India enjoys according to the Constitution of India. Right to equality. Right to equality has 5 provisions under it. Let me read out the provisions first. Number 1, equality before law. Number 2, prohibition on discrimination on the grounds of religion, caste, sex, or place of birth. Third one, equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. Fourth one, abolition of untouchability. And fifth one, abolition of titles. So, the first one, equality before law. What does that mean? The state shall not deny to any person equality before law, equal protection of law within the territory of India will be given to each and every citizen. This means that whether the person is rich or he is poor, he is famous or whether he is a common person, everybody will be equal in the eyes of law. Second one, prohibition on discrimination on the grounds of religion, caste, sex, or place of birth. There will be no discrimination on these 4 categories: religion, caste, sex, or place of birth. Third one, equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. That means any government office has any placements or any job and the person is eligible for that job, then he will not be discriminated and he will be given the job. Fourth one, abolition of untouchability. Kids, we have already done what untouchability is in the smaller classes. Untouchability is where lower caste people were not allowed to move freely in public places or temples. But after this right was introduced in the constitution, this abolition of untouchability became the right of the citizens. Now, fifth one, abolition of titles. Remember, we used to say Maharana Pratap, Rana Pratap, or Maharaja or Chakravarti. All these titles were given to the kings and the emperors. But now, no person will be addressed with such type of titles. So, the fifth right to equality says abolition of titles. So, all these 5 provisions are there in right to equality. We come to the second right, which is right to freedom. Okay, there are 6 freedom given under this right. First one is freedom of speech and expression. Second, freedom to assemble peacefully without arms. Third, freedom to form associations and unions. Fourth, freedom to move freely throughout the territory of India. Fifth, freedom to reside and settle in any part of India. Sixth, freedom to practice any profession or carry on any occupation. So, for the explanation, freedom of speech and expression, that means whatever is in my mind or whatever I want to speak about a certain subject, I can speak or I can express myself. So, that is freedom of speech and expression. No one can deny me my speech and expression. Second, freedom to assemble peacefully without arms. That means if I want to conduct a public meeting or I want to assemble 5-6 people in a place, I can assemble and talk to them about any subject, or for that matter, for anything I can assemble the people. But the condition is that there should be no arms in my hand or in the persons who are there with me. Third one was freedom to form association and unions. When I say freedom to form association and unions means I can have my own union, or any person, any citizen of India can form its own association and unions. Now, fourth one, freedom to move freely throughout the territory of India. That means if I am residing in Gujarat, I have got freedom to go anywhere in the country. Say I want to go to Calcutta or I want to go to Hyderabad. I don't need a permission from the government. I can move freely in the territory of India. Secondly, if I want to reside in any part of India, I can reside and I have got the freedom to do it. In that case also, I don't need the permission of the government. Today I am residing in Ahmedabad, but tomorrow if I think I don't want to stay in Ahmedabad anymore, I want to go and stay in Surat, then I have got all the freedom to go and reside and settle in that part of the state or the country. Freedom to practice any profession or carry on any occupation. I have got all the rights to carry on my profession. Article 19 of the Indian Constitution, right to freedom. There are 4 more provisions under this right. We have already done the 6 in the previous slide. The first one is protection in respect of conviction for an offense. Now what this conviction means? A formal declaration by the verdict of a jury or the decision of a judge in the court of law that someone is guilty of a criminal offense. We can have protection against this verdict given by the jury. Second one, protection of life and personal property. Every citizen of India has a right to protect his life and his personal property. Third one, protection against arbitrary arrest and detention. Now, by detention, simple meaning is to arrest a person. Now, what is arbitrary? Arbitrary means unrestrained and autocratic in the use of authority. That means the authority cannot with force detain any person. Now the fourth one is right to education, which is the most important one. Icebreaker session. Let's have some fun. Okay, let's jump together on our place for 4 times. Then let's hop for 8 times. Come on, hop, hop, hop. Now squat for 10 times. Done. Enjoyed? Now students, take a square paper, a colorful paper or whatever paper you have in your hand. It should be a square paper. We are going to make an origami balloon. Okay, I'll give you the steps. I am speaking of the steps of making the balloon. But even if you are not able to understand the steps while I am speaking, there is a chart given on the screen. You can see that chart and make the balloon. Okay, the first step is fold the paper in half downwards to make a rectangle. Done. Now fold it half again. Done. Open the front half of the paper, swinging the flap and folding it down to create a triangle. Flip over and repeat the step. Fifth, fold the corners up to meet at the tip. Now sixth, fold the corners and meet at the center. I have made the balloon. What about you? Students, we need to know the 2 do you knows under the right to freedom. These are very important do you knows. So let us go through them. There are 2 of them. In August 2017, a 9-judge bench headed by the Chief Justice of India unanimously arrived at the landmark verdict declaring right to privacy as the fundamental right, which could have a bearing on several aspects of law, lifestyle and governance. Right? That means they have given the right to privacy, but it should be under the aspect of law and lifestyle and governance. That means according to that area, the lifestyle should be matching. Only then the right to privacy can be considered. So right to privacy means like in my private affairs, nobody can interfere. The next one is right to education. was included in the Constitution in 2002 for the first time as a fundamental right. According to this, the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children in the age group of 6 to 14 years. So these are the two more rights which we have to remember, and the dates were August 2017 and 2002. In August 2017, right to privacy, and in 2002, right to education. These two, do you know, are important, so please keep that in mind. Right against exploitation. This is the third right according to the Constitution of India. It has two provisions. First one, prohibition of traffic in human being, and all forms of forced labor and beggar is prohibited. Traffic in human being means no one is allowed to be made a slave. Okay. Second one, prohibition of employment of children below the age of 14 years in any factory, mine or hazardous occupation. No child under the age of 14 years can do any work except going to school. This is the second provision under right against exploitation. Now, do you know, kids, there is one more right which is called the right to information, which was given the status of fundamental right in 2005. Now, what does this right say? This right enables people to seek information from the government departments and institutions on matters affecting the society. However, informations may be denied if it is likely to impair the security of the country. Now, what does that mean? Now, if a common person or a common citizen wants any information regarding any schemes of the government or the safety, security or the economy of the provided by the government, then the citizen can seek the information from the government. But in case if it is not appropriate for the security of the country, then the government may even deny this information to the common person. Clear? Students, let's move on to the next right, which is the right to freedom of religion. There are four provisions given under this right. The first one, freedom of conscience and right to profess, practice and propagate any religion. Students, as you know that India is a secular country, so each and every adult citizen of India has a right to propagate or practice any religion of his choice. He may have been born in a different religion, but he can practice and propagate any religion of his choice. Second, freedom to every religion institution to manage its own affair in matters of religion. It means like a temple authority can manage its own affair in the matters of religion. Third, state will not collect any tax for promotion of any particular religion. If a institution or if a religious institution wants to propagate or promote its own religion, then the state will not collect any tax in that case. No religious instructions can be imparted in any educational institutions which wholly or partly maintained out of the state funds, like any government schools or schools will are partly funded by the states. There will be no impartment of religious education in that institution. Okay. Now we go to the next right, which is called the cultural and education right. Again, we have two provisions under it. It guarantees to preserve, maintain and promote one's culture and language. Second, the minorities will be given assistance by the state to establish and administrate education institution of their own to preserve and develop their culture. That means the minorities in the particular state or in our country as a whole, if they want to establish their own institution, the state will fund them. That is the right under culture and education rights. Right to constitutional remedy. The fundamental right protects the citizen against the use of power by the government, some institution, or individual. Therefore, the fundamental rights are protected by the court. There are 2 points under it. First one, the Constitution of India has not only listed fundamental rights but has also prescribed remedies against their violation. Second, if a citizen feels that one of his or her fundamental right has been violated by an executive order, he may request the Supreme Court, High Court to issue an appropriate writ for restoration of his or her right. There are 5 writs. They are habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, quo warranto, and certiorari. Okay, let us go to the definition of writ. In the previous slide, I told you about the 5 writs and why they are important, because they help to protect the fundamental rights of the citizen. So, what is the definition of writ? A form of writing command in the name of a court or other legal authorities to act or abstain from acting in a particular way. So, we'll go through the 5 writs and I'll explain you all of them. Habeas corpus also means to have a body. It means unlawfully detained person may be produced before a court to find out whether the detention was legal or not. It is most valuable right for protection of a personal liberty. For this, I'll give you an example of Mehul Shah and the state of Gujarat. In this case, what happened? Mehul Shah was given a punishment of 5 years. Now, after that punishment, he was kept in the jail for 2 more years, which is unlawful. So, his family members gave a writ of habeas corpus and he was brought in front of the court, and the court declared him freedom. Not only he was declared freedom because he was unlawfully detained, but he was given damages also by the state of Gujarat. Now we come to the second one, mandamus. Mandamus is issued when a public servant has failed to perform a duty. In such a case, the court orders the concerned official to perform the duty not performed earlier. In this writ, it is important that there should be a public servant. Otherwise, it will not be considered right. So, in mandamus, I'll give you an example of Gujarat Financial and Lotus Hotel. In this, what happened? Gujarat Finance gave the Lotus Hotel the commitment that they will pay the finance for building the hotel, but they did not pay that finance. So the Lotus Hotel put a writ of mandamus and the court ordered Gujarat Finance to pay the finance which they had committed to the Lotus Hotel. So that is the mandamus, which is very important, and it is important that there should be a public servant in this writ. If there is no public servant, then this writ will not be considered. In such a case, the public servant was Gujarat State Finance, right? So these were the 2 writs. The others we'll discuss in the next slide. Okay, now we go to the third writ, which is the certiorari writ, which means to be more fully informed of. If a superior court, it may be the High Court or the Supreme Court, wants certain additional information or records from a lower court to enable itself to deal with the case more effectively, then this writ may be issued. Like if there is a client who is not satisfied with his judgment in the lower courts, he goes to the Supreme Court or the High Court, then the High Court and the Supreme Court can order the certiorari writ to give them full information about the certain case. Okay. Now we go to the fourth one. Quo warranto is issued to restrain a person from acting in a public office to which he or she is not entitled. Now supposing I want entrance in some college, then I have to give all the entrance exam, plus I have to pass that level, and then only I can go and sit in for certain courses. Supposing if I have not passed the entrance exam and I am sitting in that college, then I will be restrained from doing so. So that is called the writ of quo warranto. Now last one is prohibition. Prohibition means to prohibit or forbid. This writ is normally issued by the Supreme Court to the lower courts, asking it not to proceed with a case which is not fall under its jurisdiction. Now what does jurisdiction means? Jurisdiction means a area which is controlled by a certain lower court. Now if a case does not fall under that area, then the Supreme Court can order the lower court not to proceed with the proceeding of that case. That means prohibition. So these were the 5 writs. Some important board questions. Question number 1. Mention any 6 freedoms guaranteed by the citizen of India under the fundamental right to freedom. Question number 2. Describe any 3 provisions of fundamental right to equality. Question number 3. Explain any 3 provisions granted under the right to freedom of religion. Let's go to answer number 1. The question was what are the 6 provisions under the right to freedom? The 6 freedoms are as follows. First, freedom of speech and expression, to assemble peacefully without arms, to form associations or unions, to move freely throughout the territory of India. 5. To reside and settle in any part of India. And 6. To practice any professions, to carry any trade or occupation. So the learning codes are all the highlighted words in each point. First is speech and expression. For the second is assemble. Third is associations and unions. Fourth is territory. Fifth is reside and settle. And sixth is practice. Question number 2 was the provision for fundamental right to equality. What are the provisions? So there are 3 provisions of fundamental right to equality. First one, equality before law. The state shall not deny to any person equality before law or equal protection of law within the territory of India. Second, prohibition of discrimination on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex and place of birth. And third, abolition of untouchability. Untouchability is abolished and it is practiced in any form is forbidden. The enforcement of any disability arising out of untouchability shall be an offence punishable in accordance with the law. So again, for the learning code, the highlighted words are there. Equality before law, we have to remember deny and protection. For prohibition of discrimination, we have to remember religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. Then third, abolition of untouchability, we have to remember untouchability and forbidden. Okay, so these were the 2 questions. We go to the third question. The question was right to freedom of religion. Right to freedom of religion. First point, freedom of conscience and free practice and propagate of religion. According to this right, every person is equally permitted to enjoy the freedom of conscience and right to acknowledge, practice and spread religion. However, this right is subject to certain restrictions to maintain public law and order, morality and peace in the country. Second point, freedom to run religious affairs. According to the Constitution of India, freedom to run religious affairs include the freedom to establish and maintain charitable institutions, either to manage its own affairs in the matters of religion or to acquire and own movable and immovable property and to take care of such property but lawfully. Now, charitable institutions, why do temples and churches and mosque needs charitable institutions to carry on their religious activity? Like during Navratri, the temples need money to carry on how to do the havans in the temple. So that is why charitable institutions are there. Clear? Third point, no person shall be compelled to pay any tax for promotion or maintenance of any religion. According to this, no person shall be forced to pay any tax, the proceeds of which are particularly appropriate in the payment of expenses for the spread or protection of any particular religion or religious activity. Okay, students, for this answer I have highlighted the main words plus I have given some images which will help you to remember this answer. Clear? What are the learning outcomes from this presentation? Equality. As kids, what would be your contribution to equality? So I have listed two. You can have more also. Think of more and we'll discuss them when the school reopens. First is call your mates kid to your birthday party with your friends. Okay. Involve them in everything that you do with your friends. Second, play indoor games and teach them technology. And you also learn something from them so that they feel valuable also. Okay, thanks for now. Meet you in part 2.